Ain't you sick of giving me your money?
Oh, ish. Oh. I know he didn't do it, baby.
Whoa. Where you going?
No, I'm about to go make these drop offs.
Hey, what's going on, people? This is your boy, Bradley DLO Thomas, and welcome to the BLK Currency Podcast. By day, I am a marketing strategist at a biotechnology company, really nerdy stuff. By passion, I make music and I am a MC, so I will pass the mic.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Opal Elisa. I am a director of multicultural business strategy by day for a large financial firm. And by passion, I am an MC, a poet, spoken word artist, author, all around creative. I'll pass the mic.
That's what's up. I'm Corey Dash DUB Whitmore. By day and by night, I'm at Media 22, Studio 22, Radio 22. And I just dropped this jewel on Snapchat like yesterday. Yo, my album's coming out.
Woo, woo.
2026. 2026.
Nice. I didn't see that. That's what's up.
Okay, that's what's up, Corey. Okay, that's cool.
You know, I'll be dragging my feet when it comes to my own stuff. So I at least had to put 2026 on it. I know we in 2022.
That's love. Yeah. So for this episode, for all the listeners out there, we are actually going to focus in on Corey for this episode. There's a lot of stuff about him that I'm very interested to ask. You know, I know he's very, very committed to the community as an entrepreneur, do music and media. He is the founder and owner of Media 22, which is the platform that you are currently tuned into related to that, right? He offers so many different services, and if I start naming them all, we'll be here for another 10 minutes or so, because it's just slash this, that. But without further ado, we are going to focus in on you, Corey. How you feeling today?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. It's another busy day, podcasting, and recording over at the studio. So,
Right.
glad to be able to take a little time off and just, talk through some things and have a discussion before it gets busy around here.
For sure, man. Yeah, I've been noticing you've really been focusing in on the podcast lately. So how many podcasts are you does Media 22 kind of hold right now, Radio 22?
So we have some that we do sponsorships for, so something that's more in-house, where we provide the space and do all the editing and things of that sort. And then we also have businesses and customers that we have that come to use our space and either rent our space or use our services for podcasts. So I would say right now we're working on somewhere between 10 to 12.
Nice.
Wow.
Real nice.
That's dope. That's super dope. So you know how we normally get into it. I'm very interested in how the original spark got you moving towards media and music. Like was there, like, what's the journey? Like, kind of walk us through like how you got to where you are today.
Well, I'll try and give somewhat of a shorter version, because it has a lot of zigzags in it.
Of course. It's the way of the entrepreneur.
It's always the way. So for me, our family was real transient. So my mom and pops. My pops is from the Memphis area, Mason, Tennessee. My mom's from the Birmingham area. So that gives you a little context, especially, in the days of the civil rights movement and things of that, of their influence. But my dad worked in government as a U.S. conservationist, USDA. So the thing with my pops is driven much like me, and was always getting new opportunities and advancing in different ways within the USDA. So, you know, he would get new positions and we would move. So I was born. I'm a PA product, Harrisburg, PA, capital city, home of LaShawn McCoy. Bishop McDevitt's, my brother and sister went there. But we moved from there. I moved to Maine, of all places, if people know where Maine is.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Right.
Like, so,
I know there's not that much diversity in Maine.
Yeah.
No, there really isn't.
Right. I was about to ask you,
isn't.
like, you was like the only brother there, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I just recently looked up the demographics for some reason because I was retracing places I had been. I think their African American population was like 1.67%.
Yep. Sounds about right.
So myself, I was the only person of color in my school, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for my brother and sister. And we were there for 6 years. We were there, Brewer, Maine. From there, we moved to Champaign, Illinois, home of the Illini. I know I'm gonna get some hate from the Badgers on that, but yeah, I went to a bunch of Illini functions. Went from there to Gaithersburg, Maryland, which is outside of the DC area.
Okay.
And was there for a little bit. And from there moved to Madison, Wisconsin. Some people don't know I was actually here for 3 years of high school.
That's right. That's right.
Really?
Before I went to Marquette University and I was in Milwaukee, and I was there for 16 years. And then I relocated from Milwaukee back here about, I think now, like 6 years ago.
When did you graduate from high school?
98. Why are you dating me on the on the podcast? Y'all didn't cover that in the pregame.
Hey, we going deep, man. We going deep with you, man.
Yeah.
You can cover that, but yeah, it's the places and we'll get into it. The places I've been have had a heavy influence on my perception and how I interact with folks and how I view things, because I was slingshotted between diversity, non-diversity.
Yeah, you were.
Now, being in a place where it's like, oh man, people look like me or fit in, and then a place where there's no diversity, where it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. How do I navigate this? Because I don't have any examples or anybody to really guide me through this. And that has manifested itself a lot in my business and just how I interact with folks in general. But yeah, I've moved around a lot. Where the media thing came from, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a late bloomer. Music, I didn't really get the music bug until college. I did not play an instrument. I didn't play in the band. I didn't know anybody making beats. I wasn't around any per se rappers. And my roommate from California had this beat program or whatever called EJ. And I was like, what's this or whatever? And he's like, oh yeah, it's just a beat program I play around with. It's mainly loops, but you get to like formulate and sequence all the loops and things in there. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I was like, okay, yeah, let me, I like this. And then I went and did something, I think it was called Mixman or something, which was like a DJ production / hybrid. And before I knew it, I was like 100 beats in, 200 beats in. I was putting them on disc because you could burn disc.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That was the era of that.
Oh, yeah, you got
a big old stack of 100.
Right. I'm like, oh man, I get to play my own beats. So I'm in somebody's car. I'm like, yeah, pop in the disc or whatever. These are my beats. And so I'm doing that in college. And then as I'm going to school and I'm working, I start to bump into people that's like, oh, yo, I rap, I do this. Like, do you record? And I'm like, nah, but maybe I could figure it out. So, I did a little research and I was like, oh yeah, I could, let me go over here and buy this little 8-track, digital recorder. And then I got a little mic, and it was the first setup was crazy. Like I tried to do the, how you see all in the studios and the mic's hanging down and it looks all cool and you got all this. So man, I had like this hanger or something that I put into the ceiling, and I had the mic come down off the hanger so you could get that vibe in the field. And have monitors. So I was plugged into, like, I guess you could call it kind of, it's not a boom box, but the little stereo with the box speakers and stuff like that. And I had it plugged in there. I was like, oh yeah, we got it. So, I produced a short little, I think it was a 4 or 5 track before it was EP. I guess you could still just call it an album. At that time for my guy, Mr. G. I used to work with him over at Mitchell Airport. And we got the cover art together and we start pushing it. And it was like, yeah, we should be doing more of this. I know so and so. I know so and so.
Oh, okay.
And I just started working with artists in that way. Before I left school, I got an internship on the north side with this dude named Busy. And he just knew a bunch of MCs from around the block, a couple of producers. He's like, I need somebody to come in and organize this. I need somebody to get the artists right. I want to do the business. Let me set up events. He was from Memphis. Let me talk to my folks in Memphis and the music down there. Let's see if we can get popping.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a whole lot of experience. Bro brought me in. He came to Marquette and was looking for folks. Ain't nobody was like, I don't know about dude.
Right.
Right. Me, I'm like, it's an opportunity. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. So I went out there. It was like bro was off 76 and Green Tree for my Milwaukee people know where that is. So we had a studio out there. He brought in all these cats, Versatile and Drama and all these cats. He's like, yo, make it happen. Here's the equipment. So I went down there. It's like a Roland 2480, like a digital board. He had like a 414 and Triton keyboard and all this stuff. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, this is it. But I didn't know how to run any of it. All I knew was the 8-track, and I can hang my mic from the hanger. We're gonna get it in the bedroom. And I'm gonna plug into my stereo, and it sounds dope.
Right.
So the first time I got
too.
there, right, I slept there and just put my head into the book. I said, bro, can I stay here overnight? He's like, yeah, that's cool. Because he's like, yeah, I'm bringing an artist probably on Thursday or Friday. I'm like, well, it's Tuesday. I never even run this equipment. But that's what it was. It was sink or swim. So I just went in there and just tried to learn it the best I could and work with folks. And what was starting to happen is that I was improving my skills. I took this chance to improve my skills, even though there's a fear there that I don't know how to do this. I don't know, bro. I'm not sure what's going on. Right. And then I'm starting to learn how to work with people. People are coming in and say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. How do we make that happen? Oh, I want my stuff to sound like this. And it's starting that thing in me to start to learn to troubleshoot and problem solve and kind of do that on the spot. And not because you don't always have time to say, yo, let me go ahead and prepare for this and make sure I'm ready. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But you got to be able to sink or swim regardless. And that's what kind of got me more into it as far as media music. When I graduated, I started my record label. So in 2005, I started a record label called Deuce Deuce Entertainment. Started out my apartment on 22nd and 22nd and Kilbourne, in Milwaukee. So that's close to Marquette, slightly off of a few blocks away from Marquette on the north side or whatever. When I left that internship, I learned a lot of things. I learned a bunch of things that I found that works as far as dealing with people in the music. And I found some things structurally that didn't work, that put people off. So regardless, if I wouldn't have taken that chance for that experience, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't have had as far as a basis to start my own thing.
Right.
Now to start my own thing, I look back on it, that seems crazy. I mean, to say I'm going to graduate from college and start my own record label. I don't think I quite understood what all that really meant as far as, it's one thing, it is a lot of work. It's one thing to make music, but to be honest, as it grew, that became the smaller and smaller part of the label. It was understanding people, handling personalities. It was learning how to do website, SEO. It was marketing and promotion. It was talking to venue owners, talking to other managers. It was rehearsal. It was setting up video to make sure we see what we're doing, and then we can review the video, and then we can set something up different for rehearsal. It was all these other things that, at least for me, when I first started, I didn't take into consideration. And that's why I look back and say, man, that was crazy. That was incredibly ambitious. At the same time, with my time in moving around in the different school systems, I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, if I'm gonna be honest. I'm not
Right.
gonna say I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. Let's keep it 100.
What do you think that came from? Was that just because you had to constantly be in a new environment and kind of prove who you are, prove yourself, like make new friends? Like it's almost like
Over and over again.
that whole you, like when you were moving around, that all those skills came into you building your business. You know, they always say like, well, it's 90% business, 10% music in the music business. So you just kind of just jumped in.
I just jumped in the pool. Yeah. Didn't know the water was hot or cold. I just jumped in. But yeah, a lot of that comes from moving around. I felt that many times my skills and the things that I brought to the table were overlooked. And for a person that academically, I would say in the latter part of my school year wasn't doing well. You know, when I first was starting out, and a lot of that has to do with school systems and where they're at.
Yeah,
man, I was an A student. I was easy. I'm like, man, I'm just cruising. We transitioned to another school system that's more advanced than the one I'm at. I'm behind.
Yeah.
So me thinking that, oh, I'm this type of student, but I'm this type of student in this school system. I moved to another school system. Yeah. Now I'm a B student. I moved to another school system. Now I'm a C student. So that plays on your psyche a little bit, and it plays on your confidence. And it feels, and sometimes you feel that you have things to give, and you feel like you're being overlooked many times. And I think academics was one thing, but you know, every time you move somewhere, you're rebuilding, like you said, you're rebuilding your identity, and you're always having to go and show and prove something. So it's like you don't have any built up capital. You're starting from ground zero. And when you keep doing that over and over again, sometimes no matter what situation you're in, whether they believe in you or not, you feel that you have to go out of your way to prove it. I'm, you know, I ain't going to do the math for y'all, but I still feel that way right now. And no matter what situation is, you could praise me for 2 weeks, and I'm gonna figure out something that I'm like, you know what, this could be better, because that's that condition. I went to 3 high schools in 2 years. I went to 2 different high schools my freshman year, and then went to a different high school my sophomore year. So it's start and rebuild, and try to formulate an identity. And that's always lent itself, whether I've had a job or whether I'm in business as I am now, where this is it. This is the end all be all. So I've always had that mentality. The pros about that, it's motivating. It continues to keep me motivated, because I'm always critical or analyzing the things that I'm doing and figuring out a way to get better almost every single day.
And that's like that's like a real, you know, that's like a real sign of greatness too. There's a book called Relentless that's by Tim Grover. So he was the trainer for and I know you're gonna have other books you're gonna recommend later.
Michael Jordan,
Kobe Bryant,
and Kobe for a little bit,
Charles Barkley, quite a few, Dwayne Wade as well. And that was one of the things that he talked about in this book, was like just being never just being satisfied with being good, or you know, being great. Like being unstoppable is just, even if you had like a perfect game in everyone else's opinion, to you, you're like, okay, I had 2 turnovers. That's not perfect. I got to go back in the gym and work on something. So that's what, when you started talking about like how you feel like you just never to the pinnacle, and you're always like, there's always room for improvement, it made me think about that.
But for people that may be listening that have some of that in them, there's a downside though.
Yeah, absolutely.
How the grind of you having that mentality and working with other people can sometimes grind on them. Because when you are always sitting in a place of saying, yeah, this is good, but this can be better. Yeah, that was good, that can be better. Some people aren't able to operate in that way, meaning that they may need that time and that space to say, hey, look at what we've done. This is great. This is amazing. Let's go out and celebrate that. And to be honest, that is the far healthier way of living. And someone has recommended that I need to do more of that. I still to this day have not been able to find a way to celebrate a win. Every win is for me creates a new level for the next thing to improve upon. So when someone says, hey, look what we did, we accomplished this and put these things together, and everyone's in celebratory mode, I'm like, okay, now we've reached this level. Now, how do we take this level and go to the next level? And that's also what, if I'm to admit, will kind of run my batteries down.
Yeah.
It's almost like a point guard with basketball. They say point guards have to learn pace. You can't go 110 the entire time. Yeah. You have to know at which points of the game in which you need to push it, and which points of the game we need to pull back. It's all about flow. It's about rhythm, and it's about balance. And I still, to this day, struggle a little bit with that balance.
So what you're telling us is basically we have to trick you to take you out, go kick it and relax. You're like, look, Corey, look, just meet me right here. We're gonna go to the studio. I want you to meet this person. And it's like gonna be, I want you to meet Jameson, or I want you. I want you to go out. We about to go out to just go kick it and have fun. So
right. You would. I mean, I won't say a name, but I was setting up equipment for somebody for an event a few weeks ago. And they're like, yeah, oh, you want to come through and hang out at the event? I'm like, yeah, I would like to, but I got some other things to do. I just got other things to do. So instead of sitting there and either hanging out for a little bit because I just finished setting up and the event was going to start, or coming to the event early, I go back to the studio at like 7 and then show back up at the event at 2:30 to take my stuff down, and just do work the whole time. Now, could I have easily given up an hour to 30 minutes? And if you watching this, bro, it ain't personal. Like, I could have, but my mind said, well, man, I got this window. Let's see how much I can get done.
Yeah. And it is that balance for sure that you spoke about, because I would say, at work and in passion, I'm a person who definitely points out and celebrates the wins, because naturally I have that tendency to rewind, pick apart, find the place I stuttered, the thing I hated, and go try to make it better. But I have found, just as you said, that healthy piece, like I have to have that balance. And I would say that it doesn't look like everyone else's balance. So when I'm celebrating win, it don't look like popping champagne. It don't look like kicking it. Cause to me, that's work. Like if you see me at an event kicking it, somebody's paying me to do that. At this point, pay me to be there. Cause that ain't how I do it. Right. And I've shared before that, like, every time I'm paid for something creative, I will take my daughter out, or my family, my mom and folks out to eat, because that's the way, right? Or we'll go do an event, we'll go somewhere, or we'll take a vacation, or we'll do something. So it's there and it's celebrated. So yeah, just finding the way that it looks. But back to, DLO's point on greatness, like I spent some time with Nipsey Hussle, and he did exactly what you just did. He opened up for the game, he got back on his tour bus, and he was working. Like he was straight up working. And we seen, he had to build, right? Because he didn't have that, clear elevator rise, right? It took him, and he was grinding. He's famous for recording himself on his first demos and first albums, right? So it's a balance, right? You can't listen to everybody else, because most people that tell you to kick back, they ain't doing nothing. They ain't hitting the goals. It's true. They ain't hitting the goals that you want. But yeah, you gotta be healthy for yourself. So I'm thinking, like, when you're telling me this and you're telling me that, your father worked for the USDA, which is a really good government job. How did it go down when you graduated from the prestigious Marquette University and said, I'm starting a record label? How did that conversation hit? What that look like?
Well, my pops was an entrepreneur.
Nice.
So in itself, he had his main job, but he worked, he did some things in real estate. He had bought some apartments, some houses in Harrisburg. And because I remember younger going down there and fixing up those houses, where we would go down there and spend, 4 or 5 days, and we would be cleaning up, sweeping out, replacing toilets, doing all this work to get them up and to be ready to rent. As many parents, he dabbled in Amway.
Everybody has somebody pull up with the clipboard.
Everybody,
with the circles and if you do this and bring these people in. I mean, I did with network marketing myself. So it's like back in the day, though. Yeah, I feel you though.
Amway was a thing back then. So I was able to see those things, and those things I think subconsciously manifested itself. When I think I told you guys when I was 8, my Halloween costume was a businessman. So I would show up to the house and then I pop open my briefcase and say trick or treat, and I close my briefcase and I head to the next point. So you knew that something was working, even though I didn't know it was working.
Yeah.
Because other than that, like, and I was trying to play ball and chase girls. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, like junior high and high school is what it is. I wasn't thinking
it is what it is.
I wasn't thinking business. I wasn't thinking entrepreneurship. That's just not what I was on. But for me to do that at 8 shows me that something was percolating a little bit. It was in you. When I went to Marquette, for me, Marquette was difficult. It was just difficult on a multiple levels. And I'll be honest, like the first 3 years or the first 3 semesters, I was on academic probation. I was almost out by the end of my sophomore year. I think the next semester I took off, and then I came back my junior year. Like I was almost done within the first 2 years. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't focused. I didn't see myself in that place. And I think I was starting to build up a little resentment, and I think I was starting to build up, like, can I do it? I was doubting myself, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yep.
I ended up finding, and everybody says sometimes they find one. I found one professor when I came back that I think gave me confidence and allowed me to believe that there's things that I could still do. And when I moved more towards media at the latter part of my career time at Marquette, I was like an A/B student by just pivoting and actually finding somebody that felt that there was something there to be tapped. There was potential there. Where prior to that, it was like, it almost felt like why is you here? Like you don't even belong here. Like, it felt that way. Yeah. So as I finished school, and me and my pops, we don't talk, we don't talk a whole lot. He's more of the silent type. But I was like, I need to do this. I need to, with everything going on, I just need to start this. And honestly, he didn't put up no roadblocks. He's like, if you're going to do this and this, you're going to take it serious, this is what it is, then you need to go and fulfill this. But I think he knew that I probably needed to prove something. I felt like I needed to prove something to myself, but at the same time, I was trying to prove to others and myself, if I'm going to say that accurately. And he probably knew that that's something I needed to do. So he's like, I ain't going to get in the way.
That's love.
Right.
Yeah, that's real love. That's dope, man. Super, super cool, man. So, you got these different branches in Media 22.
Right.
I'm curious about like how that happened, and I'm also curious about because I know you are a family man as well. You have a beautiful family. How do you balance that? Like, are there any tips that you would tell people like who have the entrepreneurial spirit and have the drive and the motivation, internally to do these different things and build up these companies and brands?
Right.
Are there any tips that you could give them, like on how to, balance that out the best way that you can? Because it's never going to be all the way one way, especially if you're trying to build something, like you're doing. So I guess kind of a 2-part question.
Right. So let me address the first one with the balance. And the second one was, so I can keep that in the back of my head. The second question.
I think I asked you about like the different, like how are you managing the different branches and the different brands within your the main business, the top one. That's
what's up. All right. So this is something I would say to all my artists back in the Deuce days. I would say, if your home ain't right, then this ain't going to be right. If you ain't handling what's going on at home, you for sure can't show up and do this, because those things are always going to be pulling at you. And we had some interesting, things occur sometimes on the road when things ain't handled at home, where people
Yeah.
pop up and disrupt shows or pull you by the ear before you're about to go on stage and things of that sort because something isn't right.
Right.
To build anything and really to really invest time into something outside of what may be your normal 9 to 5, your partner in crime, whoever that is essential, meaning that they have to be able to allow you to have the time to be you, and to grow and explore where it is you're trying to go. Because many times in entrepreneurship, we know it's not a straight line. So it's not like I'm trying to do this and then you're just allowing me to do this. No, sometimes you're going way around the bend and you're coming back to it, but that's just not the direction. And if you don't have somebody that's with you that has an understanding of that, how important that is to you, and is willing to give you the space and the growth to be able to make the mistakes, because mistakes will happen, it's just not going to come together for you. There's been a lot of artists that I've talked to. I'm like, you may love this, but your situation is not allowing you to do this.
Yeah.
So you have to rectify this in some way, saying that, I'm dead in that situation and I'm going to follow this, or you're right, I got to remove myself from here and be into this situation. Personally, I've been blessed to have a wife that has been able to give me the space, to trip and fall on my face, to be honest. And I say that because it has not been smooth, to say the least, just to put it lightly. We always talk about this in some of our podcasts. We see what it looks like online, but behind the scenes, it's this scraped up face. I got blood coming from the knees. It's all these other things that you're just not seeing. Because that's not what people want to necessarily present. But you have to have somebody that is willing to give you the space. You bring in 2 boys. I have 2 boys. Makes it even more complex, because now you're looking at trying to divide time in essence. Yeah. If you have a partner that's working and then you're working and you're doing an entrepreneur, you're doing your own business and you have kids now. Yeah. Those schedules are bonkers. Those schedules are crazy.
And kids ain't trying to hear that. Kids
not at all.
Ain't trying to hear it. They like, look, I don't care what you got going on. I don't care.
They ain't trying to hear that. And the second thing is that, well, what is that unintended impact? Right. Now, I'll take my own experience with my relationship with my dad. My dad was always on the road. He was always, if he's flying to here, flying to here, flying to there, flying to there. So there's moments that I'm like, yo, this is my come up. I'm like, where you at? And those are those negative impacts of, and as I get older, I'm like, the stuff you was doing, like you was in the lion's den. And to keep your head on a swivel in the spaces that you were, and a lot of those spaces where you're the only that is like you, especially at that time, 80s. I saw an article where bro had the afro too. I'm like, oh, you was really
he was black in the 80s.
No, you didn't show up in the paper in Maine and you got the afro. I'm like, that's a target. But there's those like I said, those impacts. So you also have to take into account your family and what you want to leave them, I guess, and I guess for lack of a better term, and the impact that you want to make. Like, I think about that. The hardest thing I think about is not getting caught up in being as busy as my pops was, and missing the moments that I wish he was there for. I don't want that to happen to my 2 boys. So figuring out that balance and cutting out the time, the strategy, the best strategy to do that, that we've been using is really a phone. Me and my wife will sit down and just map out the month and put it in the calendar. Simple things as, Who's taking them to the doctor, or the dog has to go to the vet, or I'm out of town for this conference. It's not going to work as, oh, by the way.
Right.
It's just not fair to really either party to have that continue to pop up, and it erodes the relationship. So as far out as you can to get ahead of some of these things would make things easier. Now, is that a perfect blueprint? No, but it's a blueprint that has worked, I think, to work for us. And, I think it allows us to now look ahead and say, okay, yeah, I'm pushing 60, 70 hours this week. How do I now balance that out into the next week and say, hey, well, maybe I'm not going in Monday, or maybe I'm going in Tuesday late because I want to spend time with the family, or I want to make sure I'm at the track meet, for my oldest, and things of that sort. So if you can work with your partner and however you can to really put those things down and commit to those things in a calendar-like format, it just gives you a little bit more perspective of where your time is being spent and where it's not being spent. And then you can pivot. Is the only thing I could tell you, but it's hard. I've seen some people that are just so incredibly talented can't get through to the finish line because of just at home situations and the lack of balance in those situations that has just pulled them away, where they've made what could be, your next artist into somebody that pops up every other 6 months, every other year and a half, depending on what's going on. It ain't I tell people all the time, it ain't the talent.
All right.
It's really all the ancillary stuff that is happening. I found crazy talented people, through the roof talented people. But when I first started off, I'd be like, yeah, oh man, we got to get the most talented. And then it's like, no, we have to actually interview people. See, like for a while, we were like, me and my guy MJ, we're saying like, we may have to like interview artists because to see if we can pick up on some of these red flags, because it's really about how hard you work, your dedication to it, and your willingness to put in the time. And then are you in a space where you can actually get this done? Because of what we're asking you to do, can you actually do it? And that would eliminate like 70-75%. And it honestly saved us some time when we started implementing that. It's just saying, oh, bro's super talented, let's bring bro in. Nah, we got to figure out everything.
Talk
else.
to him,
We got to figure out all that other stuff, because it manifests itself in different ways. And we found out we'll be on the road at a show and it'll manifest itself then. Or we're about to leave Milwaukee to go to a show and it's like, oh, bro, I can't go. What do you mean you can't go? Show mix already done, bro. I was like, what do you mean you can't, bro? Like this ain't, no, we ain't redoing the show mix like this. No, we ain't, things of that sort. So, I mean, planning is the best I could tell you. The phone can be a tool to do that.
Cool.
I know that was long-winded. I'll try to make this one shorter with the branches. Media 22. Started 2017, has three main branches. Studio 22, which is of course our recording, mixing, and mastering that we do here for anything from music and audiobooks and podcast stuff and things like that. Radio 22, digital radio station, mainly old school hip hop, R&B, a little bit of reggaeton, and of course local artists that we put on there with Who's Next and Keep It Local. The DJ services is the thing that's less advertised, but was actually a mainstay before Radio 22. When I first started Media 22, it was the studio in the basement. For those that remember the basement, shout out to Kilo. Kilo just performed at Mad Lit. I think hers was one of the first mixtapes I recorded in that basement when I first started Media 22. Yeah. So the DJ, the studio stuff were really the first things. What's crazy is that, for most people that know, I'm not a DJ by trade or necessarily with, years and years of experience. What happened was when I closed Deuce Entertainment in 2014, we had all of our own PA and live performance equipment.
Nice.
So because when we moved around, especially in state, we were going to places that didn't have setups. Yeah, we got a place, a bar and a stage, but we don't have anything. And I'm like, okay, we can't have this eliminate us from trying to take some of these opportunities to make money. So we invest in our own PA system. so that wherever we went, we could offset if they didn't have anything, or accent if they did have something. So when I still had all that equipment, I'm like, what's the best way I can start to use this equipment? Somebody asked me, can I do a wedding? And I was like, what are you looking for? Like, what type of music are you looking for? I'm like, I ain't never done a wedding before. And it's like, oh yeah, we could do this during the dinner, and then do this, and then maybe do this at the end. I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's similarities. I'm like, much like with us putting on our shows, I have to figure out the vibe, be able to read a crowd, give them what they want and things of that sort, and keep it moving. But I need to learn how to transition songs and tempo match now and keys, and figure out like, oh, these keys give this type of energy and all these other things. So there's a little bit of a curve, but I'm like, as much as with all other things, as you'll see, I threw myself into it, and I never mind. What's weird, as much as I struggled in school, I never mind learning. Like I enjoy researching, and I over research stuff, to be honest, for the most part. But I didn't mind saying like, okay, this is a challenge, so I need to acquire this skill. One, I have the equipment to do it with as many people I know. If I put my name out there, I can probably pick up a few of these, a year or in the summer or whatever, and be able to have a different revenue stream. So over the years, I've tried to develop all those skills, and that's where the DJ aspect came from. So yeah, DJ, studio, radio, and then the last thing really is the podcast. That with any business, you got to be able to be flexible to pivot and be able to read where things are going.
Sure. True.
What are we in July? So what, a year ago, I don't think we
had it, but that's okay.
Man.
It's like sad. That now, man.
That's bad. August. So I would say in August, we either had 0 video podcasts or maybe 1, because we were in our old space. So for me, for us to ramp up to 10 to 12 is being in the pandemic, having stuff closed down. I mean, I can't DJ. That's not a revenue stream. In a pandemic, for the most part. I did a few virtual, but that one was all the way cut off. Radio, what happened to yes, advertising, marketing is a part of the revenue stream, but what was driving that was us being out and active. When we were doing like the R&B shows, we were doing some of the hip hop shows. When we were out and being seen and having people see us to build that familiarity, that dried up as well. So it's like, okay, studios closed for 3 to 4 months with COVID. At that time, we weren't bringing nobody in. And then the other 2 revenue streams are basically flatlined. So it's like, okay, how do we pivot? And then 2, moving forward, is this a trend or is this something temporary?
Right.
Podcast, when we start looking at it, is like, this seems to be the trend, but not only the audio aspect, but the video aspect.
Yeah, people want to see.
Because with radio, as I was trying to convince folks until I was, maroon in the face, I almost said blue in the face, maroon in the face or something, like, radio is way more visual. We need to add a visual component to this, whether it's something in studio, out of studio, da-da-da. And some people heard that and some people didn't, but I knew I was going to apply it to my business. Because I knew that's the visual is everything. The visual right now is king. Doesn't mean that people don't listen. I mean, I listen to things audio wise all the time, but you can provide a visual. There's just so many more places where it's digestible, especially when you talk about social media. So I felt like that we had to get into that component. The podcast thing really birthed out of the pandemic and us in a short period of time, learning, researching as much as we can to be in a place to offer what we think is top quality product for not only people that are affiliated with Radio 22, but for other people that are looking to just get our services. So that's kind of where that came from. A year ago, if we would have had this conversation, podcast wouldn't even been a part of it.
Got you.
Yeah, that's huge. And also, like, how I look at it too is like also influencing that trend. Like within our city, when I think about a year ago, how many people were involved in podcasts from our city versus right now. So in my mind, not only are you providing that platform, but you're also influencing that trend because people see things and they're like, oh, I have something that I'm an expert on, or that I could talk about, or that I have flow with, or that I have connections with. And it's not even just people, artists, and personality. Like, I'm seeing you influence organizations, entire businesses into saying that, and you're involved with some of them. We need a podcast because people do want to absorb it in that way. And you're right about the video too, because like, I listen to podcasts. I'm a big listener because I'll put it on while I'm cleaning up, getting ready, doing stuff. But when I'm discovering someone new, I want to go see them. Like, I don't want to just hear them, take their word for it. I'm a researcher at that point. Let me see you. Okay, let me check that vibe. Then let me go Google you a little bit, because before I listen to you, I'm gonna I'm gonna need to see some. I'm gonna need to feel some credentials about that. So yeah, that's having that vision that you had, I think, is huge. To have been able to, have the footprint you have. So knowing that you need help with celebrating wins, I would say just kind of sit back on that.
I
look at the way you've changed the game a bit in our area. And of course, nationwide this stuff goes, but really think about that. You've definitely influenced a lot of people for sure with the podcast game.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. For real.
And keeping the radio too. Yeah. Like, people like to think that radio is dying, but like, we have to do research for work. Like, advertising on radio is not dead. It is not gone. And in some demographics, it is huge. It's bigger than anything else. So I love that you have those different lanes.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Opal. Go ahead.
I was just gonna incorporate in there. I just want to know, we ask everybody what's their life philosophy, right? So I want to know yours. I'm curious about that, especially knowing you as you're a real critical thinker too. I've been in many spaces with you, right? When it's like for the community side, from the artist side. Yeah. What's your philosophy?
Man, I think my philosophy's gone through a couple of different changes, to be honest. At different points in my life, I've felt like different philosophies have served me at different points in my life, so it's always kind of moved. The thing I've been holding on to, especially with the pandemic, and I mentioned this earlier before we started, is based out of this book called "The Obstacle Is the Way." But that's what I keep telling myself when there's some sort of thing that has popped up that has made everything that I'm doing hard, difficult, seemingly impossible. It's my own self-talking point to say the obstacle is the way. And when I say that, is to remind myself that the path forward is actually through it. And where I will be on the other side of that obstacle will put me in a far better place, knowledge-wise, business-wise, emotionally. To be able to, it's that overcoming something that's big and not running away from it. Now, I will say sometimes my straightforwardness has gotten me into some hot water, because I apply this, and this is a life philosophy. I apply this to almost everything I do. So if I'm in a conversation and it's a touchy conversation, and I see that there's this thing that seems like it's hovering in the way, I am going to go straight towards it.
That's a fact. I can attest.
Yeah. And I've seen you do that many times.
And try to, overcome that. Because I feel that living by that philosophy, that is the way. I feel that is the quickest way, most efficient way to get it done, solved, and handled. Whether that may create a certain response or certain feelings, I still feel that's the most efficient way if we're all trying to get something done. So I apply that to a conversation. I apply that to business. Will Smith always said, and a lot of people don't want to go that way because fear has a lot to do with that.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And Will Smith will say, he's quoted, I'm probably misquoting it a little bit, but always talks about how on the other side of fear is the greatest joy, is the greatest, feeling of euphoria to actually get over there and overcome that. And many times the obstacle is not something that's true. That's not based in reality. Many times it's built up fear.
Yeah.
And that built up fear has created what you perceive as an obstacle.
Yes.
So I've always said, hey, I'm not going to sidestep it, spin move it, whatever. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go for it and go through it. And whatever's supposed to happen will happen. But regardless, I think I'll be better for it. So that's that. If there's any philosophy, especially of late, that's what I've held on to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love it.
So since you have 25 things going on at the same time, bro, what does your day look like? Like,
oh my God.
Like, what is that? Like, how early do you get up in the morning? You know what I'm saying?
To be honest, not early enough.
Or do you sleep, brother?
Yeah. Right. Some days more than others. My days, I'm working towards getting my days more in a routine, but as an entrepreneur, I always joke to say, hey man, all I do is put out fires all day. And I'm speaking in hyperbole, but at the same time, what I'm saying is that I'm taking on what comes, and I'm trying to figure out the best way through it, because there's so much things that are unpredictable. There's so much unpredictability in entrepreneurship. But typically I'll get up, make sure the kids are good, whether if it's during school, make sure they're getting off to school or taking them to school. Or if I'm not going to be there, to make sure they have constructive stuff they should be doing for the day and not sitting on video games all day. But then I'll get to the studio here, and normally mornings are consulting and meetings. So I try to set up my Zooms, or if I have to meet somebody, or if I'm consulting on a podcast, I normally try to take my early chunk of the day and get the majority of that stuff done. By the time I get to the afternoon, I'm already immersed in something media, meaning I'm doing some sort of editing, some sort of setting up for podcasts for people coming in. Like today, when we came in before we started, it was like, let's get the rooms prepped, make sure it's ready and things are ready to go. When it gets to the night, it's normally, if I'm doing prepping and things like that, is normally taking what's been done and shooting it out, or doing final edits on it, meaning that, we've gotten this podcast done, we've already done the audio on it, let's shoot it out, let's follow up to make sure they got it. Let's double back with an artist that came in that was looking for X, Y, and Z. So I'll, at the end of the day, be doing email and stuff like that, just to make sure that everybody has what they need, and that we are always in communication with folks. I think one of the biggest things in business, and especially providing services, is that feedback and communication. And to try to keep that constant, but also try to keep it clear. And sometimes sometimes you have one, sometimes not the other. Like, you're constantly talking, but it's like, so what were you saying, or what needs to be done? Or it's clear, but sometimes people need follow-ups. So trying to make sure we have those things established in a timely manner, especially because we're helping people put out their art, and that is always going to be very personal to them, and people always want that presented in the best possible way, in light as they can. We're a partner in that, so we have to treat their art as our own art.
That's right.
To say, hey, is this being, if this was us putting this out, do we feel confident about it? Do we feel good about it? Is that how this would have gone? Is this how this would have gone? Is this how it should be presented? And I think many times places don't take that ownership. We try our best to try and take that ownership, to make sure that, people are feeling confident and feeling good about what they're putting forward. That makes them happy, and that keeps them, coming back.
Right.
Nice. So all three of us are business owners. We've talked about this many times, multiple streams of income. You, Corey, are the only one who is a full-time entrepreneur, right? You've made that leap, taken that jump. And we always talk about on these episodes how we learn so much and apply them to real life. So are there some things from past episodes or folks who've come through that you've had to apply? Because I can only imagine that, like, that leap that's a crazy leap. Like, I want to make that leap eventually. I ain't ready. But yeah, what were there some gems that had to come through that you had to like use or that helped you be able to make that leap successfully?
That's a great question. Man, if I'm gonna be honest, to be transparent with folks, it was a reluctant leap.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because, you know, leaving my previous employer as I did, that was not part of the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
That was far ahead of, that was not far ahead, but ahead of schedule of when I wanted to take that leap.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned is that in entrepreneurship, nothing happens on schedule. Nas had a line and I can't think of it. It's something about something always on time, but right.
Jay Electronica said something about it too.
On time and on something about time and schedule, where it's always on time but never on schedule, or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, that's 110%. It's 110% right. It ain't on my schedule, but to be honest, it was time. I just didn't know.
It was on time.
Mm-hmm.
It was on time.
time.
It wasn't your time though, but it was on time. Right. I get you.
And now that I look back at it, you know, maybe it really should have happened earlier.
Oh wow.
That's cool.
And I dragged my feet because I was looking for something that didn't exist. Everything lining up. Well, I've got this much put away, and then they're taken care of, and then that's taken care of, and oh man, I got a list full of clients and things of that sort. I was looking for something that wasn't there, and this freezes a lot of people. It's that waiting for the perfect moment creates inaction.
Yeah,
and
that's
sometimes
true.
people get that way with things they put out. I got to redo this. I got to redo that. No, it's not perfect. You know, I may be doing that, saying that my album's coming in 2026. I may be doing it right now. but that's a little bit of fear, and that's looking for that thing, that unicorn that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And sometimes that freezes you into inaction. And I felt like maybe why it took me so long is I was unknowingly freezing myself in inaction. And maybe this move probably could have been made, you know, 3-4 years prior. But now that I am here, you know, the things that I've had to kind of adapt and to take on, one, that philosophy right now that I had mentioned, the obstacle of the way, is everything, because it has not been smooth. I don't know if I make it look smooth or something smooth. Like that.
It looks smooth.
Oh, I'm glad it looks smooth, but it has not. It's been rocky. There's been times of, you know, times in the beginning where we were just scaling like crazy. I mean, these rooms were changing around in different ways, like every 3 weeks. Like you would come in and be like, well, that's not how it was set up before. I'm like, yeah, we can do this, and this is more efficient. We can do that now. And then there's been parts where there's been lulls where it's like, man, when is that rent check due? Okay, yeah, if I can book this and this, all right, yeah, we'll just get there.
Yeah.
So to know that, you know, to be able to adjust to that, but also I also take a lot of those so-called, what I would call L's, as the information I haven't learned yet. Because in entrepreneurship, there'll be things that'll happen and you're sitting there wondering, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? You know, I thought I did this, and this. Why is this not going right? And there's a couple of ways you can take that. And I don't know if this is original Tony Robbins or maybe a Jim Rohn, but it was along the lines of, you know, things that are happening. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah.
It's to change your perspective of how you look at the things that are happening. And I've had to look at it as saying, not trying to take it personal, like, yo, you know, why is this happening to me? I'm saying, okay, this is happening for me. Why is this happening for me? What is the lesson that is to be learned that I haven't learned yet? And for everything that's gone wrong or anything that hasn't gone quite in the way that I've wanted it to go, I've said there's a lesson to be found here. I have to be calm. I have to be patient and figure out that skill or that thing that I need to learn so that I can move forward and get through this obstacle. And that has grounded me probably in a way more than probably anything else. To be able to hold on to that, to say, what am I missing? What have I not learned? Because entrepreneurship, you're learning on the job. I don't have,
right.
You know, even though my pops was in entrepreneurship, you know, he did it in a different way. He was, you know, it wasn't exactly in the way that I'm doing it. You know, it wasn't something where I said, oh man, I loaded up on all these classes in school to be able to prepare me for accounting and all these other things. I didn't.
Yeah.
So I had to go and find the information and figure those things out. I'm in a weird hybrid of a business. Media can mean so many things to different people.
Right.
So the configuration of things that I'm trying to put together, it's not your typical configuration. So that means I have to create the blueprint, that I can't go grab it or copy it. I can take pieces from other people. There are people that's in the radio industry and broadcasting industry that can teach me some things on that. There's some people in the music industry as audio engineers that have their own studios that can teach me stuff about that. There's other people that may be doing podcasts and things like that that can teach me stuff like that. But I'm trying to bring all those things into one. So my configuration and my blueprint is different from theirs, even though there's things I can pick up. Right. So many of these things I'm creating on the fly. And I have a intern that I bring in here, and I always joke with him. He's like, all you ever say is like process and efficiency. You say that so many times. I think we're going to do a TikTok on it because like things that I say. And I say tragic when things aren't tragic. He's like, oh, we're going to do one where you just say your words for TikTok or whatever. But I always try to teach him that.
I love it. That's gold right there, by the way. That's gold. I'd watch it.
I always try to tell him that.
Mr. PE now.
Right. We are creating the processes and infrastructure when we create our own business. And especially in a business like this, I have to be able to have a process that if somebody came in and said, we want to buy your business, you know, if I want to sell my business to somebody, I have to have my infrastructure and processes all set out to be followed from somebody that may not know anything about it, but says, hey, I want to buy it. It looks profitable. I'm going to hire people and bring in people, or I'm going to integrate people with people that you have. Can you come in and show me how this works? What is the process from this from A to Z? How are you making money? What are your revenue streams? How are you built? How are you going to be able to scale this in the next 5 to 10 years? You have to create all of those things. And it has to be created in an efficient way. If you're actually looking to sell this to somebody else, or if you're actually want to continue to make this profitable as technology changes, the times changes, how customers interact with technology and what they're looking for and what they need, all that stuff changes. You got to be able to pivot. So you're creating so much of this on your own.
I heard about what you talking about. It makes me it reminds me of a acronym for system, right? Because you're talking about having all these processes and systems, so save yourself time, energy, and money, right? So I like the fact that you just mentioned that of this business. You're attached to it, but it's not. You see a bigger vision for it. Right. Like if someone else were to come in and be like, "Hey, here's millions of dollars. Right here it is." Like you have your business all set up for that. And I think more entrepreneurs need to think like that. And so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely.
It's a position of like neutrality, and I think it serves business folks in multiple ways. Like the neutrality to say, I love this business, but to be open to possibly somebody coming in and buying the business. Maybe they can take it to a place that I can, or maybe they have a different vision for it that can do these other things. I should be open to that, but I don't want to sell myself short by saying, oh, this is mine. This is always just going to be mine. And I'm just going to kind of do it, just do it in any way that I want. I want to do it efficiently, but I also want to make sure that it's attractive. What if BT came in and said we want to come in and see what you got, or bring you on board, or Puffy comes through and said, oh, we want to add this to Revolt or something like that. They're going to be looking for those things. I need to have those things.
Right. Absolutely.
And the neutrality also works. We had recently had an incident about just dealing with people and holding your power and in conversations and in negotiations, holding your power and being neutral, meaning that you aren't coming to the table with a predetermined outcome. You're neutral enough where you're flexible in which way wherever this conversation or whatever may happen, whether it's something that you like or something that you don't like, but to be able to see those options and know that, okay, if this happens, I can do this. If that happens, I can do that. That neutrality is actually in negotiation. That's where your power is.
Yeah.
When you're too lean to one side, or emotion has you feeling like, oh man, I got to be this, I got to be this. Sometimes it's hard to see the other solutions.
That's true.
That's a fact. You can do a whole podcast on that right there.
Yeah, you really could.
Real talk.
So that neutrality is strength in a number of different ways when it comes to business.
Business neutrality. Yeah, man.
I like that.
That's dope.
Hella gems.
Hella gems.
I appreciate it.
Hear him dropping on the floor, man. Like you. It's money.
This won't be a long time coming though, because man, the listeners, y'all just don't know, man. Corey be dropping gems and schooling us on so much. And I think like Corey, you remind me a little bit of like a Left Eye, like in TLC. Like everybody saw TLC, but like nobody knew that Left Eye was like sewing the clothes, designing the clothes, making the sets, writing so many things. So you're like that where you do so much from graphics and everything else. So I love that you got to give the folks a little bit of glimpse of some of that stuff, because that's dope. And I'm sure that's what it takes. Like, because at some points it's probably just you, right? It's just you doing stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I do have a question for you for book recommendations. What you reading, man? Like, how many books are you reading?
I'm trying to do 2 to 3 a month is what I'm trying to do.
There's more than one.
Yeah. There's some, I'm going to try to name some stuff that you guys that haven't been named, because I mean, the books that have been named have been phenomenal, and those are in the library too. But I'm going to try and give folks something else that they may not have, that I've heard that have served me well. The first one, which you guys have heard me talk about, is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It gives all these examples of how, going straight and attacking that problem creates just an incredible amount of benefits. Like I said, it benefits you in just so many different levels to be able to overcome that and get on the other side. It has it has sports examples. It has examples with how astronauts train in NASA. It has like all these things, quotes from Marcus Aurelius, all types of stuff. So man, that's the first one I would start with that I really like. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. The second one I would say is Power of Habit, and I'm probably not pronouncing his last name wrong, but Charles Duhigg. Yeah. Just how you are able to really, I mean, it's a blueprint for transforming yourself through habit and setting up your body and mind and emotions to be doing the same things over and over again, repetitively, and moving in good habits and moving out bad habits. Because everybody has a combination of both in different parts of their life. And it's like, it's almost like, just trying to insert and replace different things. And it's also, for me, I felt it was a way to make myself more efficient with my time. As far as, okay, what habits, and this other book called it habit stacking. What are the things that I can stack in certain parts of my day that will allow me to know that I am accomplishing X, Y, and Z every single day, or every time I come to the office or studio. But it also talks about triggers and stuff, and the things that are triggering some of the habits that you don't like, and how that happens. So that was a book that I really enjoyed. I need to go back and listen to that one again, if I'm gonna be honest. The last one I'll give you that's in here, that one was good. The Outsiders.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Is that by what's his name? Malcolm?
No, this one's by William Thorndike.
William Thorndike. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one was non-conventional CEOs that came into different businesses, and basically how they navigated to turn around that business. For me, it was basically like a listening to someone's train of thought as they go and they problem solve something. And what I was interested in to see how these CEOs went into these big corporations from other businesses, and how they turned around what in many cases was a failing business, and their process and their innovation to do that. They say they're the outsiders because their processes are normally outside the norm. It's not your conventional process. So I just found that fascinating. I think I listened to that on the way to Detroit for a conference or something like that. They're back when we drove, and it was incredible. There's a lot of things that I was able to apply to this business as far as kind of thinking outside the box. So
Nice.
Found it innovative.
Nice.
So yeah, those are the three I would recommend.
Nice. I got a couple new books. About to order it as soon as we get out.
Right. Go ahead and put these on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah. Well, hey man. Well, first of all, I appreciate you creating this platform for us to have these conversations, because I feel like we've been able to share so many different perspectives related to business, related to, mental health, physical health, through this podcast, and in your other podcasts as well, on the platforms are super entertaining, and just like, just showing different faces, and promoting positive Black images of people, you know what I'm saying, and doing what people don't think you can do.
Right.
So I'm very inspired by you, brother. I am.
Appreciate it.
So I really appreciate you in this, and letting us talk to you for a little bit when you got time.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I echo all that. Yeah, you're amazing. You're a genius and a mogul. So thank you for sharing that with us, and I echo everything that DLO said too.
That's what's up. I appreciate it, man. Hey, this wouldn't be possible without Sean. Y'all the glue to this. Without y'all, there is no this. So as much as I'm bringing, I feel like y'all are bringing it too. So just know that I'm incredibly grateful and appreciative of all the time that's been invested in, and the things that we're going to continue to do with this platform and with this podcast. So,
all right, cool,
awesome.
All right, of course we got to plug it. We got to plug.
Right.
So y'all know you got to hit up that link tree, BLK Currency Podcast. We're still up on IG, still up on Facebook at BLK Currency Podcast, and the video, of course, will be at youtube.com/radio22.
We had a little watch party off of the Dexter Patterson
we
episode last time.
Oh,
so
okay.
Definitely check that live on YouTube and Facebook. Those be tight.
That's what's up. All right, y'all got everybody that's listening know that y'all got some books to download and to check out. And we've been trying to post some of the lists on the social media from some of our past podcasts with some of the books that people have recommended. So make sure that people look out for those as well.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be up soon. Word.
All right, y'all.
Peace, y'all.
All
right, peace.
Ain't you sick of giving me your money?
I know he didn't do it, baby.
Whoa, where you going?
No, I'm about to go make these trouble.